And once again, Hockey Books and Storytellers with Teabag and Tone is live on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. sharp. Looking forward to this show. We don't have a special guest. Craig and I are just going to yak. So, stupid producer, hit the intro. And good morning, everybody. Jerry Teabag Hack coming from Mission, BC, Mission Control. And I'm going to bring on the most interesting and, let's say, knowledgeable hockey guy that I know. Great hockey player. But unfortunately, he wasn't available, so we got Craig. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. You?
Yeah. Had a pretty good week. Finally got a full weekend off, and so I've been working 6 days a week for the last 5 or 6 weeks. So it's been a grind, but I got yesterday off and managed to get some stuff done, and I feel pretty good today. How are you?
So far, so good. When you work 6 days, as soon as you're finished that sixth day, my grade 1 speech therapy for us is coming in there. The countdown starts. You start thinking, I've got a day and a half. I got 18 hours. I've got 12 hours till I have to go back to work. So having those 2 days.
For me, it generally hits about 4 o'clock on Sunday, 4 or 5 o'clock, and I'm thinking, oh man, I got to get to bed soon because I'm up at 4:30 in the morning, so it's it's tough. I'm not a morning person. My wife is a morning person, and I hate her in the morning. She's all chipper and happy and singing to the birds and saying hi to the pets and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm not grumpy or anything. I'm just groggy. Like it takes me a while to get going.
So you know how Harlem's schedule came out, and they've got all kinds of. They have all kinds of
Sunday night games.
Sunday night games. And so Aleem is the chef at Cactus North Burnaby, just down from my place. So the chefs all do inventory on Monday mornings. So it's classic, the countdown on Sundays for them. And Brew had it all the time. So all of a sudden, you're as soon as your whole day is like, I'm going to bed in 8 hours, I'm going to bed in 6 hours. Like it's a full countdown. So his turnaround, he's probably got to be at the shop at 5 a.m. on Mondays.
Oh yeah. Well, I think I told you I used to play against the team, and their home ice time in the old Vaha, you had a home ice time, so you played every week, and their home ice time was Monday night at 10:45. And so they all had to be up for work Tuesday morning after being up till like 2 a.m. because you can't go to bed right away. You're wired for sound, and you just so it's it was I couldn't imagine. And they always had a full bench. That was the thing. Like it was, and they had a good team. So anyway, I discovered my the software that I use to do all the editing and put the intro and outro together and stuff. It has an AI setting so that you can put in a description and it'll come up with a picture. So I put in a description of me. I put in a description of me, and I said 62-year-old, average looking, goatee, dirty blonde hair, wearing a t-shirt, and this is what it came up with. So, man, if I look like that, I'd be in Hollywood. So,
nailed it.
Yeah, so I put in I put in like 45-year-old, 240-pound, brown curly hair, glasses, and this is what it came up with.
Oh.
no, sorry. This is what I came up with, but it was pretty close. I thought that.
Oh, that's gross. That's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah. So, yeah, I had a little bit of fun with that. So, yeah, AI is kind of a scary thing, but you can have a little bit of fun with it. So,
it's crazy what you can do. We could put together a Teabag and Tone short movie. With enough information and enough kind of what do they call them, just the statements and the background to what you want. It'll put together a full movie of us. It'll do the podcast for us.
Yeah,
so you can sleep in.
Yeah, yeah, all computer generated. That would be awesome. So anyway, lots to talk about this in the last couple of weeks. St. Louis offered 2 of your Oilers free agent contracts.
Yeah, that was something. I mean, totally unexpected. I like no one expected that. Certainly a double offer to one team, and I totally respect Armstrong making that call. I think GM should take advantage of that way more often, because that's the flip side of one team building their team and putting their team in a position. It's the same as another team looking to build their team, take advantages, add advantages to their team. I think it was a smart, wily move for Armstrong to do. And as he said, like, Holland had nothing to do with why he waited. That he would have done it if his mom was the GM, and I believe that. Do you have a problem with the offer sheets?
No, not at all. I mean, it's part of the collective bargaining agreement, and back in the day, it was to do it was, I remember St. Louis offered Scott Stevens,
yes,
a restricted free agent. They signed him to an offer sheet, and it was 5 first-round draft picks that they had to give up. And the funny thing was, the next year, they did the same thing with Brendan Shanahan. And so when they signed Shanahan, they didn't have the 5 first-round picks anymore. So they had to negotiate what the compensation would be, and the compensation turned out to be Scott Stevens. So that's how Scott Stevens ended up in New Jersey. Yeah. So, because Shanahan was a New Jersey Devil and St. Louis signed him to, they gave up 5 first rounders. And those first rounders turned out to be, Pat Peake and Trevor Halverson in 91. Halverson turned out to be nothing. Pat Peake was interesting because he was having a pretty good career. And then he's the guy that, on a icing call, was racing with a guy, and he ended up falling into the board's feet first, and he broke both his feet, and he never played again. Which years later ended up resulting in the icing calls we have now, and that's why Don Cherry went on the rant about, oh yeah, so exciting, the icing. They need to do the no-touch icing, which it's much safer now, but I don't know, those races for the puck, they were, but again,
dangerous, so potential.
Yeah, the danger of serious injury just was too much, and they had to do something about it. 92, they got Sergei Gonchar and Jim Carey. Gonchar, obviously Hall of Famer, and Carey was a flash in the pan. He won the Vezina Trophy one year and then fell off the face of the earth. 93, they got Brendan Witt and Jason Allison, which was cornerstone players for their, they had good teams. 94, they got Nolan Baumgartner and a guy named Harlamov. I don't know if he's related to Valerie, but Harlamov never played. I think he played a few games. That was it. Baumgartner played like 190 games, was a borderline NHLer, mostly minor leaguer. And in 95, they drafted 2 guys who played 2 games each. And so, whether that, that worked out for both teams, I mean, Scott Stevens went to New Jersey, won 3 Stanley Cups with the Devils. So you got to say New Jersey probably won that thing.
Scott Stevens, what a presence for his career. Like,
Oh man,
what an all-time NHL defenseman.
he
Wow.
was a scary guy, and he was so intense. And yeah, he laid out Paul Correa. I think he took out Eric Lindros too. And
I think that Lindros, I think, was the big concussion that sent the big Heat down that path with concussions.
Yeah, well, after that hit, I don't think he ever went into another corner. He was a perimeter player.
The Lindros was mid-ice.
Yeah.
Like, I think around the blue line. Just caught him.
Same with Korea. And so St. Louis signs Philip Broberg. And that's
Holloway.
Oh, that's Holloway. Sorry. This is that's Broberg and Holloway. And they each get 2-year contracts. Broberg, my God, he gets $4.5 million a year, and he's only played 80 games in the NHL. I mean, he showed well in the playoffs. I was impressed with his play. He seemed to, be progressing nicely. And how much upside do you think he has?
Oh, I think Broberg's a top 4 defenseman. I don't think I'm not sure if he gets into the top 2, but I think he could find a role in the top 4. Lots of upside, really nice with the puck, comfortable, and not taking anything away from how he played in the playoffs, but comparatively speaking to him stepping into that lineup compared to some of the other defensive holes that we were having or defensive troubles we were having, whether it be with Nurse or Cece or Desharnais, Broberg comes in and plays a very calm game. All of a sudden, heads turn. This Broberg kid. So comparatively speaking on the ice, he fared well. He played well, but not worth 4.5. Kudos to him. It sounds like there was upside. So I think he's top 4. He could be a top 4, carries a puck. He could be a power play quarterback on a lesser team, but I think a higher end team, he's probably a 3-4 and can slot up on the first and second power play, no problem. But not at 4.5. And if the Oilers had, I could rant on for this for a little bit, but I think for 4.5 for 2 years, I think the Oilers made the right decision there for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then what about if I can find it again?
Dylan
Holloway.
I think a solid guy, bled oil, bled the blue, orange, and white. But I think there's plenty of players out there in Holloway's side of things, and comparatively speaking, from an upside standpoint, he might be a 15 goal kind of guy, but he just hasn't ended up putting the resume together. He played well in the playoffs and kind of showed up, but again, probably could have gotten him signed
he got half of what Broberg got. So, 2 years, two point something million, I think it was.
Yeah. And both of them are overpaid, no question. Armstrong admits that. Just a fact, but Holloway could have been signed for a little over $1 million over the last year. But I think Broberg, that talk of him not being happy with the way the Oilers looked after his progression and within the club, and bringing in guys like Ekholm just kind of slowed his path to regular playing time, which I don't think he was happy about ultimately. And I don't think his camp was looking to sign in the last year. So I think it's easy to say, Holland should have signed him, but
both were first round picks. Broberg was first round pick, 8th overall in 2019, and I can't remember Holloway. I think it was a year later.
He was 14th or 16th.
Yeah, he was a little bit later. And so what they get in return now, instead of getting the 5 first-round picks, which what it used to be, they get a second-round pick for Broberg and a third-round pick for Holloway. So giving up 2 first-rounders and getting a second and a third in return. Plus, they got, for a 4th-round pick, they got Podkolzin. Oh, from Vancouver. Now, Podkolzin was in the same draft, 2019. He was picked 10th overall. And I remember when they drafted him, a lot of people were saying he was the best player in the draft. But they had to wait 2 years to get him because he had signed a 2-year contract in Russia. So they waited 2 years, and then he just never, he's a hard worker. Like, that's what you'll get. You'll get you'll get absolute 110% effort all day long, every game, never take a shift off. That's what Podkolzin brings. Yeah. But he's more of a natural goal scorer than Holloway, but not by much. He's not going to let it, although he's still only 23. You just never know with these guys. Some can be a late bloomer, but the Canucks felt that he was going to be in tough to make the team this year, and then he would have required waivers to go to the American League. So I think they just figured, we'll cut bait and get something for him now rather than lose him on the waiver wire and get nothing.
I like Podkolzin. I as you said, I like his grit and his effort. There's no question about that. And I think he's one of those guys that could be the local kind of bit of a folk hero kind of thing in that sense. And it's like Janmark in Edmonton. Like, Janmark's never going to have to buy a beer ever again in Edmonton. And I think Podkolzin's upside is definitely higher than Holloway's. Not by much, but I'd probably 25% higher than Holloway, I think. And has the potential to find a right fit that where he fit himself into that Canucks lineup was the $64,000 question. But also, you've got Elias Pettersson or Elias Elliott. Elias.
I say Elias.
Petey.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to play with Petey? Not to segue there, but in that same vein, that the bottom 2 lines for the Canucks didn't ever really seem set for quite a while. And where Podkolzin would fit into that, not sure. But Podkolzin's got some speed. He hits. He throws his body around, and he can take a punch. So
yeah, he definitely can take a punch.
Did you see that interview after he got into that fight, and they asked him what his wife thought, and he's like, "She thinks I'm an idiot."
Yeah, he's a great kid. He's very gregarious. The Oilers are gonna love him. He's all out effort all the time. So yeah,
he'll be a good room guy too. And I think that's a real key for anybody that they bring in. Has got to be a real room guy. And you think of Enrique and Skinner and Arvidsson. They all signed a little bit for a few dollars less, but I think they're good room guys. And I think Pods is a good room guy. And then the other guy that we haven't spoke of yet is Tyler Emberson, the defenseman. That he's not a Broberg level, but I think he's got his potential, and his upside is that he's got the potential to pot a few, but it's going to be that steady Eddie defenseman. And I think he's somebody that I think has the potential or the upside to surprise some people as far as impact and just on the ice, puck carrying. He's a solid puck carrying, and his stats, the metrics and the analytics for Emberson and Broberg are quite similar for but they also both have really small samples. I think Tyler's got 120 games or 130 games played. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the Oilers. I think they made the right decision not to sign them.
Well, they really handled their cap space well, I thought, because they were going to be up against it, trying to sign those two and keep them on the team, and then it would have limited their options going forward into the trade deadline and free agency next year. So they really freed up some space. They're still pretty close, but they do have some flexibility, and so I think you got Stan Bowman. I think give him credit. I think he handled it pretty well. But I'm hearing a lot of negative backlash on Twitter. Like a lot of Oiler fans are pissed, that they didn't sign those two and whatnot. So I think it's about 50-50.
Yeah, and that I'm not surprised at that. Are you surprised at that?
No, of course not. I mean, everybody, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. So it's, I think, and everybody, is a armchair GM, say what you want about, our GMs, and Patrick Alvin and Jim Rutherford, but, they've got all the information. So there's nothing that they don't know. Whereas we sit back and we just know what we've read on the internet or in the newspapers. And so, everybody's gonna opine on what they know, but not what they don't know. So I think, Stan Bowman's got all the information. I can't see an issue with it. I mean, they're set well for this season. I mean, they got to be the Stanley Cup favorite, I think. And
you can't, yeah, for sure. I mean, when you have 97 and 29 on your team, how can you not be?
Well, it's just, and the supporting cast, they've become stronger. Like, the Canucks haven't gotten stronger. I don't think the Canucks are going to be different, but maybe a little more grit to their game, which is, always good in playoffs. So, I think they'll be knocking on the door again, but I don't think they're going to get over the hump. And I think Edmonton's really primed for, and then Florida, they went to the final and lost, and then the next year they go to the final and win. So I think Edmonton's, I think history will repeat itself this season. So we'll have to see.
But you know what? I think the Oilers are not better on defensively right now, especially on the right side. That losing Cece, as debatable as that is, logged a whole bunch of minutes in his time as an Oiler. Losing Cece, not having Broberg, Tyler figuring out what his role is. We're not stronger on the back end. I think our Achilles heel is still our defense, but here some of the simple math is that like immediate, short-term and long-term on declining those sheets. Kane is obviously the wild card, whether he goes on LTIR or not. If he does go on, great, that gives us a bunch of space to play with until he comes back. If he doesn't, that means he's healthy and back or soon to be able to suit up, which is great, fantastic. But if they had signed both those, even one of them, we would have been up against it and potentially starting with one less roster spot, which I believe we did last year to be cap compliant. And then the short term, meaning the trade deadline, that not signing those two, who's going to bitch more if this team is in contention, which you have to believe that they will be. If this team is rolling coming into the trade deadline, if their hands were tied as far as cap space to sign anybody, can you imagine the uproar or like, oh, you guys fucked it up. You shouldn't have signed those guys, because I think the impact Broberg and Holloway would make comparatively to what could happen at the trade deadline, a la Ekholm. Like, I really think the Oilers will be finding another Ekholm 2.0 this year. They're going to go get one of those steady Eddie defensemen and shore it up.
That's the point I was trying to make, is they've got the flexibility to do that. So, they're not going to leave this gaping hole in their defense for long. And so, especially they might, even up until the trade deadline when, they have to, make some changes. So, depending on who's in that spot and how they're doing. So, but like I say, I as much as I hate to say it, I don't see anybody beating Edmonton. I mean, they're going to be in tough. There's lots of good teams. So, but I think they've really put themselves above the fray and whatnot. So now in Canucks news, what I'm hearing is that Demko is not ready. So, and it's going to be a while before he is. So, I remember in the Nashville series, he was on the ice in full gear. And, so I don't know it's got to be a soft tissue injury, because those can just take forever. I mean, I had a groin pull that took 10 months to heal, and then 3 months before I could play again, but 10 months before I was pain free. So, I know those soft tissue injuries can take forever, and they're frustrating as hell. So what I'm hearing is that he's not ready to go, and so that's a little worrisome, but I would rather have it happen at the beginning of the year rather than last year at the end of the year in playoffs. So, that really screwed us, his injury. So,
and that injury, I think, I think that injury hurt the Canucks mentally in the playoffs, because Demko was such a factor in their success last year when he was healthy. But yeah, that's a tough hit, and the fact that I believe them that it's a separate injury. It's two different injuries that have kept him out now. And I mean, I wish him all the best, and I mean, I would have loved. We probably would have won a Stanley Cup by now if we had a Demko in net over the last couple of years, no question. But we certainly would have beat the Canucks more often last year with a Demko.
Yeah, if we had Skinner and you had Demko, it would have been 4-0 the other way for sure.
Or Campbell. But I think Demko worries me. Do you think he's peaked from it? And I ask that in the sense, how do you think injuries, and I mean, roll the dice, but injuries with the next couple 3 years of his career?
Well, he's 28 now, and so just coming into the prime. A prime for a goalie is between 28 and 32, and so and he's still improving. Like every year, his numbers improve. So I don't think he's quite reached peak yet. But yeah, if he can't stay healthy, then it's really gonna hurt the Canucks. And so I'm really hoping that the medical staff has got a good grasp on this and what's going on, because they really need him. I mean, they've got Seelovs in the back, backing up this year, so he's proven he can play, but again, he's not Demko, and so I'm it's really concerning. Okay, we'll move on. I think we're going to do the rapid fire part now. Are you ready for this?
Hold on. All right. Okay.
Have you been studying?
Yeah.
Studying your trivia? Okay, so
Don Jackson,
Brett Callaghan,
Blair McDonald.
Yeah. Okay. let me get. I'm parched. Let me get ready here. So I'll just have a sip of my
Blair McDonald played with
Pepsi Zero. There is no product placement on our show at all. Actually, you know what? I really like this stuff too. This you get it at Superstore. So I really like that stuff too. So we are not getting any money for this endorsement, but anyway. Didn't
Blair McDonald play for the Canucks too?
Yes, I think 1 year at the end of his career, they had him. Yeah, I remember him not wearing a helmet. So
yes,
yeah. So okay, Rapid fire for August 25th, 2024. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. How many cups in a pint?
2.
Right. What is Bob Dylan's real name?
Don't know.
Robert Zimmerman. Name the captain of the Edmonton Oilers before Connor McDavid.
Oh, the defenseman from Boston.
Andrew Ference. I'll be able with that. I'll give you half a point for that one. Leonardo da Vinci was Italian. Which country is his painting the Mona Lisa in?
France.
Yes, it's in the Louvre. True or false? The longest burning light bulb is over 100 years old.
Correct.
That's true. Yes, it is in Livermore, California. Installed in 1901, so 120 some odd years. Okay, soccer star Ronaldo is from what country?
Portugal.
Right. Name the NHL player who's played for the most teams. Mike Sellinger, 12 teams.
Right.
Who directed the movie Maximum Overdrive starring Emilio Estevez?
Oh, we'll pass.
Stephen King. Name the NASCAR driver nicknamed the Terminator.
Pass.
Dale Earnhardt. Name a band that Paul Rogers was the lead singer for.
Pink Floyd.
That was a stab in the dark. No. Free, Bad Company, The Firm, The Law, and Queen and Paul Rogers. So 5 bands that you could have chosen. But yeah, not good. What'd you get? 4 on that? 4 out of 10?
Oh, I was thinking Roger Waters.
Roger Waters. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, not him.
Geez, I didn't show very well on that one.
Yeah, well, questions can be tough. So
I'm starting to pick up on a theme of the categories.
there is no theme. It's just I just pick random shit. So anyway, I got a couple of traffic stories for you. I living in the city, I don't know how you feel about it, but it's getting more and more dangerous driving. There's more and more cars on the road. It seems like every day, and people are getting more and more out of control. It just, excuse me. Now, coming home from work, I had a couple of incidents. The first one, when you come off the Golden Ears Bridge, you merge onto Lougheed Highway, right? So there's a merge lane, and there's 2 lanes that Lougheed Highway has, like 2 lanes. So anyway, so I turn into the merge lane. There's traffic. It's just beginning of rush hour, so there's traffic. And so the light goes green up ahead, and the traffic moves, and there's a guy stopped, and he's seemingly letting us in, me and another guy ahead of me. Both of us are being let in, right? So I'm merging. I'm halfway into the lane, and all of a sudden he's right beside me. And I'm thinking he's just being a dick and not letting me in. And I look over at him, and he's totally engrossed in his phone. like he's like this. Like it's like, and I don't know what he's doing, but he's looking at his phone, and then whoa! So I, take evasive action and move back into the merge lane, and then he merges into the next lane, and then there's a left-hand turn lane right after that goes into a strip mall, and so he's he's away from me, so I can't yell at him, and then. But I noticed he's got a license plate with his name on it. So if anybody sees Hakim, Hakim, and he's driving a piece of shit car, tell him to stay off his phone, because I couldn't believe it. Like, he didn't even notice me. Like I was like 2 inches from his side. So anyway, and then so the next one, it was a week or 2 later, and again I'm on Lougheed Highway going through Maple Ridge, and then in Maple Ridge you can go and then take the bypass, the Haney bypass, so you don't have to go through downtown Mission or downtown Maple Ridge. And so I decided there's a Chevron just past the bypass entrance, so I kind of wanted to stop and get something, and so I go and I get back onto Lougheed Highway, and I just decide to drive straight through Maple Ridge. Now, if you've driven through downtown Maple Ridge, you notice there's a line of parked cars along the side, and the lanes are really narrow. And so it's happened quite a few times where if you're driving along and somebody opens their door, you can take their door right out. Like, that's how narrow the lanes are. And so yeah, I'm fated to the, I'm probably riding the line because I don't want to take somebody's door out. And then, oh man, I got to pull this up here. Where is it? Oh. I don't want to say what kind of car the guy was driving. No.
Dodge people.
So, yeah. And, so he blasts his horn at me, and I, whoa, dude, really? And then he's got like the flared wheels. You know how the wheels are outside the fenders, and they're like 8 inches outside his fenders, the most extreme ones I've ever seen. And so anyway, and he's got his windows down, so he's swearing at me, "Stay in your own fucking lane!" And then he's giving me the finger, and like the guy, you can see the blood vessels in his forehead, just popping, and like, and I swear to God, I was not in his lane. I was close to the line, but I was not in his lane. And so anyway, there's a red light coming up, and there's a McDonald's there, and so I didn't want to get beside him because, like, I don't want to engage, right? You don't want to engage with these people. So I
never know.
Yeah, you just never know who you're dealing with, right? So I pull into the McDonald's parking lot, and he's right there, like at the light. So, I can see him. So I'm staring at him, and then he's looking at me, and then so I put up my phone. And I'm pretending I'm calling, so because he can hear me. He's close enough he can hear me. So I'm describing his vehicle, and I'm describing him, and then so I pretend to hang up. I say, "You better get off the road, buddy. Cops are coming." And he just gives me another up yours and whatnot. But I just don't understand the anger. Like, just like that guy is in need of serious professional help, and this is not uncommon. Like, I get to work at, like, I start work at 6 a.m. So I'm driving across that Golden Ears Bridge between 5:30 and 6 every morning, and I'm telling you, since it's Maple Ridge on one side and Langley on the other, neither detachment patrols the bridge, like the actual bridge deck. So there's no police presence. I've never seen a cop on the bridge deck unless there's an accident. So, you'll get the odd radar trap, leading up to the bridge deck or leading down off the bridge deck, but never on the bridge deck. There's no police presence, and people know this. So they just drive like maniacs, and like, I just can't believe some of the stuff that I see every day. Like, just guys doing 100 miles an hour, and it's crazy. Like, it really, in 2027, I turn 65. I'm hoping to retire again. And I seriously want to move out of the city. I do not want to drive in the city anymore. It's just getting too many whack jobs. I'm sure you've got some horror stories.
Oh yeah, and it's funny where you say you want to get out of the city, and you're not in Metro Vancouver.
No, not at all. Like, Mission's is probably the furthest suburb there is.
Well, and driving on that Golden Ears, people fly on that, and especially, as you said, if you're there early, it's wide open space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's like the Autobahn. It's just like, and I'm telling you, it's scary, especially when it's raining. And like, I don't want to lump everybody together, but I swear to God, statistically, I don't know if this is true or not, but it seems to be the reality. Dodge Ram drivers are the worst. Like, it seems to me like as soon as they buy a Dodge Ram and sit in it for the first time, there's a microchip in the brain that just triggers saying they don't need to follow the rules anymore. I mean, tailgating and weaving in and out of traffic, not signaling, like, and then what is the one thing that people do that drives you the most batty when you're driving? What is the habit that people do that you just hate?
Hands down, the zipper and merging. That people who get territorial, who won't let you turn, or they're thinking they need to make that turn first, or they try and get two cars in the lane versus the zipper. You don't have to tell me anything more about you as a person. I'm probably not going to like you. I'm just not going to like you without that zipper. That it's just, I guess it's part of just getting older and just going, you know what, it just, the territorial side of things on the road just drive me nuts. And
I the like merging, the thing that drives me crazy is people don't know how to do it. Like if you're on the freeway and you're in the lane where the merge lane comes, people will merge right into your side if you let them. You know, they don't even look. Just like, okay, people, if you're watching this, this is how to merge. You're on the merge lane. You get up to speed of what it is, 55 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, and then you look for a hole in the traffic and you merge into the hole. So it's not that difficult, but I swear to God, people will, like I say, will merge right into your side, and then they all of a sudden they look, it's like in panic, and like, so it's like,
but that's there. Here's a big difference between us and the States, or at least Washington State, where I think BC needs to, I think, start this as a rule, is in Washington, you have to, on merge onto the highway, you actually have to move to the left lane. So that when somebody's merging onto the highway, I get that can be a little hairy. I mean, getting onto a busier highway or getting up to speed, but it's, people try, again, be territorial. They've got that
inside
lane, but in Washington State, you move to the left.
Really?
To allow
so it's a traffic law that you have to move and let the guy merge onto the to the right hand lane.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I didn't know that. So
they don't have. I don't know if it's considered that the person merging onto the highway has right of way, but the expectation of the way that people are taught how to drive, and the expectation on the highway is you're supposed to move to the left lane to allow people to merge. So it's funny we're talking about traffic. You know that we've entered the Carlsberg years. Brock coined the Carlsberg years a few years back. Well, a bunch of years. Remember Carlsberg, probably 25 or 30 years ago, they had a campaign, commercials and stuff, and kind of university grads you'd meet around at the pub for a beer, and you're sipping and toasting a Carlsberg, and it was called, and the line was "Welcome to the Carlsberg years." So now we get to this age where we talk about traffic, the weather, and bowel movements. Like Drew and I can get on the phone and we're all like, "Oh, 3 boxes checked." That's the type of conversation we're having.
I really don't want to talk bowel movements, but I'm as regular as a metronome. So
cheers to that.
So, the thing that gets me, the most thing that I hate the most and gets me riled up is tailgaters. I hate having somebody riding my ass, and I just I so badly want to slam on the brakes and let them run into my rear end, but usually I just move over to the side of the road, let them pass, and then get back at it, because it's not worth it. Like I say, I really don't want to engage anybody, because, like I say, you just don't know who you're dealing with. I mean, people get so out of control, and down in the States where there's no gun control or very little gun control, road rage incidents are, I just don't want to get into that.
I've given a few brake checks in my life.
Yeah, no, I've slowed down, usually just take my foot off the gas and slow right down and let them, pass me or whatnot. But I don't ever hit the brakes. So I just don't want to I just don't want to engage somebody like that. Okay, so you got any music for the week, or did you think of anything?
I just got Tragically Hip there, the Saskadelphia album. Their latest new release from, I guess it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, but the August 20th is the anniversary of their last show in Kingston. So it's a Tragically Hip kind of week.
Yeah. I remember watching that show, and it was so sad, So they were trying to be so upbeat, but you could just tell the infinite sadness and whatnot, or what was to come, and so. Yeah,
where did you watch it?
At home. Yeah, at home. And
they've got a. Have you seen the trailer for on Prime? It's a 3-part documentary that's coming out in the fall about the band and the last tour, and just they're gonna put it all together. I can't wait. That'll be a box of Kleenex nearby. Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, for sure, no doubt. Yeah,
I was I was an absolute mess during that last show.
Oh, I know a lot of people were. I mean, I worked with a guy who was a hardcore Hip fan, and he was bawling his eyes out that day when Gord Downey passed away, and it's like, he was his hero, and you don't want your heroes to die, So, and the real sad thing is that, the Tragically Hip was Gord Downey. I mean, the band, I think, was the original band from day one. I think they had one ex-member, and so
all original.
Yeah, and so they couldn't replace Gord Downey like AC/DC did when Bon Scott died, or you just couldn't do it because he was the Hip. I mean, he wrote all the songs. He was the lead singer. You just could never recreate that at all. So, I'll say this, and I believe this comfortably, that if one of those guys ended up leaving the band, I don't think they would have moved on. I think that would have been they were that tight. They would have had their ups and downs, but I think that they were one for all and all for one. Yeah, no doubt. And kind of like Led Zeppelin when John Bonham passed away, they said, "Oh, that's it. We can't be Led Zeppelin anymore." So, they have done the odd little reunion here and there, but just would never be the same without them. So, yeah. Okay. The books of the week. I'm gonna plug this book again. My New Hero: Memories of the Rink Rats. Doug Savage is going to be on. We're going to have him on hopefully in the not too distant future. He's working through some stuff, and we'll hopefully get him on. And then I'm starting to read a new book called A Life Concussed by Jeff Gould, Gould. So I don't have a hard copy of it. I'm reading it on Kindle. So amazing writing and amazing story so far. I'm only like maybe 10 or 20 pages in, but man, the guy's got a tale to tell, and he's going to come on. He lives in Texas, and he's a hockey fan. So, he's he had a couple of really bad concussions which really affected him. And so we're going to get him on and talk about mental health again, which is a subject near and dear to our hearts. And so, if we'll get him on as soon as I read the book. So,
good stuff.
So I got to find the time. I got too much to do, too much going on. So luckily it's not that long. It's only like 190 pages. So I should be able to get it done in a few hours if I can find the time. So that's all we got for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you hung in there, I see we've got some viewers. So thank you. And you can watch us on YouTube after we sign off. And
it's all traffic enthusians.
Yeah.
Everybody moved over from AM 7:30.
I had to vent. I'm sorry. Report. I just had to vent. You Dodge Ram drivers, slow down and quit tailgating. Use your signals.
And good night.
And good night. Producer, hit the outro.